Hello and welcome to Binge Watch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the group editor of Woman and Woman and Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwan, writer on TV and Satellite Week, TV Times and What's on TV magazines. And today we're looking at the new releases that will be available on Friday the 6th of September 2024, including Nicole Kidman in Wedding Whodunit, The Perfect Couple on Netflix, and documentary series The Zelensky Story on BBC iPlayer.
And we'll also be peering into the box, a dark Viaplay crime thriller starring Friel, and getting reacquainted with classy Aussie comedy Colin from Accounts on BBC iPlayer. But first, Ian, what is in the news?
Anya Taylor-Joy will star in Netflix's 8-part adaptation of Bella Mackey's acclaimed comic novel How to Kill Your Family. What else is in the news, Hannah?
In Prime Video's 6-part thriller The Assassin, Keely Hawes will play one-time trained killer Julie, who goes on the run when her past comes back to haunt her.
Good selection this week. I recommend everything that we're talking about, starting on Netflix with a new thriller series arriving on Thursday the 5th of September. It's called The Perfect Couple, Hannah. And here's a clip.
Is there something that you want to tell me?
It all feels a little dramatic for an accidental drowning.
Why do you ask people to sign NDAs? Pardon?
They're rich. Kill someone and get away with it, rich.
Oh, there's a bit of star power in this, Hannah. You've got Nicole Kidman, yes, and you've got Liev Schreiber, and they are playing a wealthy married couple. It's a 6-part thriller. It's about beautiful and wealthy people, but also murder. So the setup is, well, it's a beautiful backdrop. It's at this New England beachfront estate, which is owned by Kidman's character, Greer. They've all got quite weird names in this. She's a novelist. And her husband, Tag, played by Schreiber. And it's all very exciting because one of her 3 sons, Benji, played by Billy Howell, who looks very like Domhnall Gleeson, I think. In fact, initially I thought it was him, but it isn't. So yes, he's getting married, and they're doing that weird thing that Americans do. They're having the wedding rehearsal dinner. Odd, isn't it? We don't do that over here, do we, Hannah? It's a dysfunctional family. Of course it is. The celebrations are going to be cut short when a body washes up on the beach. It's going to flash back quite a lot because we'll have the discovery of the body, but we'll also see what's happening with all the guests running up to it, the tensions between the family and kind of the bride's having doubts, and she's talking to her maid of honour, and this one of the brothers is a particularly nasty piece of work who wants to get some money from his dad, and he's being really horrible to the groom. So yes, we're getting to know all these sort of dynamics, and then we're also going to be going forward to when each person is being questioned by the police, because to be honest, I mean, you don't know whose body washes up until the end of episode 1, and obviously I'm not going to tell you that because that would ruin it. But yeah, quite a lot of people could have a motive. So it's very glossy, it's very starry, it's very bitchy. It's also got Dakota Fanning as Benji's pregnant sister-in-law, and it's directed by the Oscar-winning Susanne Bier, who worked with Kidman on the series The Undoing. It's got a sense of humour to it. It's quite a slightly wicked side, quite tongue-in-cheek, I think. It looks great. It's a bit of a sort of melodramatic pot boiler in some ways, and it's got some great kind of one-liners in it as well, some really kind of bitchy one-liners. If I were to pick out a negative, I would say, I mean, it's not supposed to be realistic anyway, but some of the things the people say when they're being interviewed by the police, for instance, saying who they'd want to have sex with, I don't, that wouldn't happen. but it all heightens the drama. So possibly file under guilty pleasures, I don't know. But yeah, very enjoyable. What did you think, Hannah?
Yeah, I mean, it's as you say, it's got massive star wattage, hasn't it? I mean, and as I always say, when the heads are turned of some of these people, you know it has to be good. Although, having said that, I think Lee Schreiber had to be actually kind of cajoled into it by Nicole Kidman, because I don't think they were that keen on doing it. But do you know what? The narrative is a bit odd in places, but it doesn't matter to me. I think it works. As you say, it's kind of something unusual. We don't do that in this country, with that sort of wedding thing going on. And, you know, a body wash. The one thing that always makes me laugh is everything seems to be set in Nantucket. I've noticed that in a lot of books. It obviously is the place to be, the sort of, you know, or perhaps not when a body washes up. But yeah, it's interesting. It's got lots of different layers, and I thought it was fun.
Yes, and Kidman excels as this very snobby matriarch. She's having a ball. Over on Viaplay, a new crime thriller arriving on Monday, the 2nd of September. It's called The Box. And here's a clip.
I've been through everything on this case, a whole year, and I can't break it.
You are Sharon Pici. You got your wife and the kid and the career. You are the queen of the box.
Something happened the day that she hung herself. I can hear her.
Yes, so I didn't know what to expect with this one, Ian, I must admit. And when I watched I've watched the first episode, and I have to say I want to keep watching. This is something really quite different. So it's a thriller, but it's got this sort of very kind of surreal sort of undercurrent throughout it, because it is a psychological thriller. And Anna Friel, I mean, I have to say her American accent, I think, is really very good. She's Manchester born, and she does a really good job of this. And she plays the part of the detective in Kansas City, and it's kind of all focuses to a degree around her. She's gay. She has a relationship with another police officer, and so that kind of brings another dynamic to it, which is really nice, I think, and really different. She is somebody who just gets under the skin of things. So on the surface, she seems quite sort of cool and relaxed, and, you know, easygoing, and, you know, almost sort of a bit sort of blokish with the way that she is, you know, kind of eating loads of sugary stuff, and kind of I'm really stereotyping here, but you can imagine all the blokes wandering around and just kind of grabbing a piece of toast and eating it, and she's sort of that person, just kind of getting her hands dirty, getting stuck in, and really quite a likeable character. But she blames herself for this suicide of a woman, Adina, who was suspected of murdering her husband. Now and that's really the premise of this, and how she kind of because she thought that Adina was innocent, and you see her right from the very beginning. This woman, everyone wants to lay it on her, but there's something she's just not sure about it, and she keeps sort of going back and tapping in to this situation, and she becomes increasingly obsessed with this case. But there's sort of lots of kind of weird stuff. So at the beginning, when they're questioning Adina, there's this red ant or red spider that goes across the table, and that's when you know there's this sort of supernatural, paranormal kind of weird force at play. When she kind of just looks quite sort of eerily and says, you know, they'll take you to the truth. You know, follow them and they'll take you to the truth. It's very kind of it's quite creepy in places, and you sort of feel, I found partway through it, as if I was kind of going to jump at any point. It's quite set with quite a sort of dark background. It's low lit. There is some humorous bits to it. It's a bit laddie in places, where the blokes sort of take over and take the main part, but she's really strong, and I think that's really nice to see. She's kind of, you know, she's a woman who knows her own mind and knows what she wants. I thought there's a lot of kind of series like this revolving around the police force, detectives, you know, murders, etc. I thought that this had a bit more depth to it, and also it was quite multi-layered too in terms of the relationship that she has. And I think Anna Friel really brought the character to life. I think she does it really, really well. I don't know what you thought, Ian, but I certainly know that I want to binge watch the rest.
Yeah, I really liked it, and it surprised me for sure. First of all, Viaplay. It's available as an add-on subscription to Prime Video customers, okay? Yeah, there's a bit of a Scandi theme this week, Hannah, because we had a Danish director for The Perfect Couple, and this, although it's set in Kansas City, was actually filmed in Stockholm, which is why it looks a bit different. And the box of the title is an interview room, pretty grossy one, to be fair. The police are about to move into some new offices. As Jed Mercurio realised in Line of Duty, we all love the cop interview scenes, don't we? And there's a lot of them in this, as you say, starting with this femme fatale character who's all kind of, looks very stylish, all in red and black. And then there's a shocking twist in terms of what happens to her, which kind of really kicks things off. Friel is great in this, and what I like about it is, so as we get to learn more about her character, as you say, well, she's in a kind of troubled relationship. She gets access to her son, but that's problematic. She's clearly had some mental health problems. There are kind of elements where you think, is something supernatural happening, or is her medication or her withdrawal from medication kind of affecting her perception of things, or is it because she's under so much stress in her personal life? And some pretty harrowing scenes as well. Like the second person that she questions in the box is this dreadful sort of drug dealer / sexual predator / murderer, and it's incredibly creepy and quite violent, but really well done. Costume wise, it looks a bit sort of Pulp Fiction-y, because she's in the kind of classic black and white John Travolta type outfit, and then the femme fatale is very much kind of got that Uma Thurman bob and that whole look going on. So it looks a bit different. Friel, I mean, she's always good, but she's great in this. And yes, I agree. I was gripped by episode 1, and I would like to see more. We move across to BBC iPlayer next for a new documentary series which is available as a box set from Wednesday the 4th of September. It's called The Zelensky Story, and here's a clip.
For Zelensky, it's an amazing journey.
His voice didn't fit to his size because he was really small.
I was not thinking about any politics.
It made people believe that change is possible.
I think he's the greatest optimist.
It's a 3-parter. Don't be put off thinking, oh, it's about the president of Ukraine, politics. So I don't know if it's my cup of tea. It is an incredible story. I mean, you couldn't make it up, this guy's journey. It beggars belief. I mean, some people know that Volodymyr Zelensky, who is now president of the Ukraine, he started out as a comedian and an actor. He did the voice of Paddington for the Ukrainian version of the film. He won Dancing with the Stars. He did a lot of kind of comedy skits and quite a lot of political satire on telly. He was very popular. And then he starred in this series, I think it's called Servant of the People, in which he plays an ordinary man who becomes the president of Ukraine. And then, of course, life imitated art, because he then went on to run for president. And yeah, I mean, you can tell he's not a career politician because he comes across as a very genuine and likable person, unlike the politicians that we're familiar with, who have a completely sort of manufactured persona and they never say anything kind of controversial, or they never really open up. He's just so refreshing, and you can kind of see that's why he massively appealed to the Ukrainian people. And interestingly, initially he was very much like, let's have a dialogue with Putin, and of course now he heavily involved in the war against Russia. But it's an amazing story. He's an incredibly engaging character, and also we get to hear from the First Lady, his wife, who says like the first time she realised he was running for president is when she saw it being announced on TV. So yeah, we see a lot of kind of footage of him when he was an actor, which is fascinating, and we hear from his friends. It's an incredible story, it really is, and this is well worth watching. It's not a boring political documentary. It's fascinating, and I was blown away by it. What did you think, Hannah?
I absolutely love things like this because you learn so much, don't you? I mean, you may or may not have known, as you say, that he started out as a comedian, but I did know that. But what I didn't know that he was the voice of Paddington. I had no idea, kind of the sort of showbiz levels, the dizzy heights of fame that he'd actually reached, to be honest with you, and why I suppose he's such a character and is so liked, I suppose, by Ukrainians. As you say, I think the best part of this is not to be put off by the fact that you think it's going to be all about politics, because as you say, our politicians dance around subjects, and frankly, we would prefer the truth, even if it's hard to bear, as opposed to some of the nonsense that's spouted. But it's so direct, isn't it? It's so authentic. It's so refreshing, I think. And his story is really interesting, born to Jewish Ukrainian parents, that kind of his path to where he is today. And, the terrible time that he's now facing too. I found it incredibly interesting. But as you say, do not be put off thinking this is just going to be a documentary about politics. Really, really dull. I think it will, for me anyway, fills in some massive potted history, really increased my knowledge of the situation, and brought him to life as a character, which he clearly is in his own country.
Also on BBC iPlayer, arriving as a box set on Tuesday the 3rd of September, we have a second series of the comedy Colin from Accounts. And here's a clip.
He's got to stop. Come on, mate. He's our dog. We're going to have to call the cops.
It's probably time to start settling down, mate.
You ready to meet my parents?
Yeah.
Here we go.
You marrying this one?
Well, this is bad.
Yeah. We're all good, though, aren't we?
Yeah.
Oh, this is just so much fun, isn't it? Although this series is slightly tainted by sadness, I think, because brief overview, you should watch this from the beginning. You should go back because you need to get into this and sort of. I don't think it has the same. You could watch it from this box set, but I don't think you should. You need to go back to the beginning. That's what I think. So it's an Australian comedy, and it launched back in 2023, and it follows this sort of slow burn romance between microbrewery owner Gordon and medical student Ashley. Now, in the last series, they were brought together because in this first date, he knocked over this border terrier. It was awful. They were horrified by what had happened, and the pair jointly adopted the injured dog. Now, the problem is that they broke up at the end of the first season, and they gave Colin to another family. But within an hour of giving this dog away, who is the cutest dog and apparently has meant that lots of Australians have bought not a border collie, is it? Border terrier. A lot of Australians have gone on to buy border terriers. It's become so popular. They didn't want to give him away, and they wanted him back. And this series sees them trying to get that dog back, almost in a. I mean, the other family call it harassment. I mean, arguably it is. They're going to the park with, dog biscuits, and it's been taken by a family. Colin's been taken by a family couple with a daughter, and there he is being walked, and there they are just trying to kind of steal it back with dog biscuits, and then they're confronted, and it gets a bit ugly. And have you got dog biscuits in your hand? No, she says as she tries to eat one, but clearly it's a dog biscuit, and it's sort of. In a way, it takes us to another level of sadness, because the first series was sad, a dog being run over, but then it kind of, I don't know, it became happier times because the dog was okay despite, having difficulty walking, but they loved the dog, etc. Then they break up and give it away. Awful sadness, tragedy all over again, on a cliffhanger. And here we are in this series trying to get this dog back. And you can tell, I think that, well, I certainly felt that I just really want them to get the dog back. But at the same time, I'm thinking, but you gave the dog away. Why would you do that? That was such a stupid thing to do. A dog is for life, not just for Christmas. Do you not know that? But they are, and you're kind of behind them wanting to get this dog back. They clearly absolutely adore this dog, as anybody would. Colin is the greatest. So it's kind of tainted by that sadness, but equally has the humour with it that runs kind of throughout it. And I don't know, I think it works just as well this time round. I think it can keep going and going. It's absolutely, it's rude, it's silly, it's funny, it's sad. It's kind of got all the emotions locked in and wrapped up. And I don't know, I really recommend this one. I think it's really funny. I really liked it. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, I agree. How have I not watched Colin from Accounts before? I certainly had no idea that Colin from Accounts was what they call a dog. But yeah, I want a border terrier now. But yes, as you say, I mean, I started watching episode 1 of season 2 and I thought, I think I need to go back. And all of season 1 is on iPlayer. And so it starts this kind of meet cute. He's driving, she's crossing the road, she flashes a breast at him. And because he takes his eye off the road, he hits the dog. And that's how it all started. As we rejoin, they're trying to get the dog back. The poor little dog, it's got a set of wheels, hasn't it? Because it can't use its back legs. The stars of this are actually a real life couple. And I think you can really sense that in the chemistry and the humour. The dialogue is just brilliant. It's so funny. And as you say, quite rude often. I think it's brilliantly written and performed. And they pack a hell of a lot into each episode. Coming up, because I did sort of look ahead to a future episode where she goes to visit his family. And it's the most excruciating Meet the Parents episode since Meet the Parents, the film. I'm so excited because when you come across something that you weren't aware of before and there's a whole previous series to binge, it's like, oh, this is good. This is good news. So yeah, I will be burning through this in no time. I think it's absolutely hilarious. We've got to that time, Hannah, where we find out what you've been binging on this week.
Well, it just has to be the Paralympics, doesn't it? I'm absolutely just in awe. It's fascinating. I absolutely love it. It's so brilliant. It's kind of, just, I don't know, the resilience, the passion, just absolutely incredible. So I loved watching the rugby. That was just awesome. And also the running, you learn so much, the guide that runs with them, the chaps and are blind running, just absolutely incredible. Brilliant. How about you?
Well, I had a quick look on Netflix at a film that we wanted to talk about on Binge Watch, but we didn't get a preview. And it's called The Union, and it stars Mark Wahlberg and Halle Berry. All I'll say is, don't bother. And of course, Sherwood. But to my partner's annoyance, I keep getting confused about who everyone is and how they're connected with the plot. It's great. James Graham. What a terrific writer. Now, we've just got time to look ahead to next week's offerings, Hannah. So what is on the Binge Watch menu?
Well, it's the end of the road for Jeremy Clarkson and co. in Prime Video's final edition of the Grand Tour.
And Jack Whitehall and his dad, Michael, reunite to explore parenthood in Jack Whitehall, Fatherhood with My Father on Netflix. So we look forward to those and much, much more. But in the meantime, listeners, watching.